I've kind of floated around Kansas City at some of the agencies, and I think I learned a lot from each place. But I don't think that my professional gig has probably been like my favorite. I think I've mentioned plenty of times here is that I love coaching girls volleyball, and I started that right after I graduated college, and there was just so much from little kids and the technique and the skill and patience that I think actually has helped me just as much as any career or place that I've been.
That's cool. So from that, how do you think you apply that to your work at Native?
Yeah, I think it's more of learning how to communicate with all types of different learners, different people. I think it's also the patience for people who might not know or understand what it is I do, or maybe the patience for myself because I might not know or understand what it is that they do. And I think that applies to youth as well. Like in my situation, every year you got a whole different group of people, and you had to kind of learn their strengths, what they could do, what they needed to learn, how they worked with other people who they might not have worked well with, kind of like a puzzle piece or a puzzle, and putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, I mean, coaching and management are almost identical, right?
Yeah.
Usually you've done what they have done before. Hopefully you know what they need to do, right? You talk about, so my daughter's 12, whenever I watch her girls volleyball team, like one of my thoughts right now at this age is like, man, I just wish they had more confidence in what they could do, right? They're kind of at that age where they're needing a little bit of a confidence boost, and you just want that for them so much, but they've got to figure it out on their own. So you got to find a way to lead them along, right?
Yep. It's like giving the tools, right? So even when you're a manager at a work, it's like, what are the tools that are going to help them figure out how to be successful with that? Because like in volleyball, you can't do it for them, right? And same in the workplace. It's just giving them the tools and the opportunities to then be successful themselves. And again, figure out, where's the best place for them? Where should they be positioned? Or, who's the best to help support them? So yeah, I think it has a lot of tie-ins.
Well, and another part of that is the team has to have drive, and that's one of the pieces I'm not sure is coachable or teachable. You kind of just almost have to have it. You can maybe help develop a love for it, but I'm curious what, just in terms of your approach to work, like what drives you, like what's motivating to you?
Oh man, I think with starting in account management and then like dabbling in project management, I don't think it's a surprise of really like the process of really figuring out how to best move things forward, how to best get things done. I think it's really easy to check a box and say, okay, we've done it, it's fine. But I think that's always the driver for me is always the continual learning and the continual growth. And I like to say, as like a type A person, like I don't know if I'm very flexible, but I think in this role, it's like you actually have to be pretty flexible. Things aren't going to stay exactly the same, but as long as you have that foundation, I like to continually be improving, growing it, rolling it out, testing it out, because people bring so many different perspectives, and so trying to really again figure out how those all work together and produce the best results. And again, that's not going to stay stagnant, that's always going to be changing, so being flexible to that as well.
You've met a lot of our clients who've come to us, and what do you think they look forward to whenever they're getting ready to get started, like working with us, or maybe why did they pick us in the first place?
Yeah, I think we are unique in the fact of some of like what we offer, or in the size that we are and what we can offer. And then in some of those instances too, there's people who are more, we'll say the creative type, or maybe more the project account management type. And so depending on what side they are, I think they can, no matter what, they can see, okay, they've got their stuff buttoned up and they really get me, and both sides are going to deliver, right? Your creative or your strategy or your performance marketing, but also your account, your product manager, like management is going to keep us on track. So I think they're getting the best of both worlds, if you want to say.
Yeah. I think that's right. But just on to flip that around, a lot of times when we're interviewing people who want to join, not hire us, but want to join and be hired, right? They'll
Mhm.
ask us the same question, like why, they'll ask people on our team, like, why do you work here? And I've
Mhm.
been in the room when you've answered that question, but I'd love to hear, what
Yeah.
your answer is today anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, again, being in different places, uh, one of the main reasons that I like to tell people about working here or why they would like is everyone likes each other. I think there's a great mutual respect for the roles that everyone does. And what I mentioned earlier is like learning from those people. I think people are very humble in the fact that they are very good at what they do, but they're humbled by what they can't do. And so leveraging each other's strengths to then, I think, be some of the best work, and then products and people in the Kansas City area.
Yeah. I, you've seen us develop over the past 5 years because you've been here for how many of them?
3.5 now.
Yeah, it's like approaching 4.
Yeah.
So what have you seen change over that time? I mean, a lot has changed, but
A lot. I mean, I think it's, well, one, just process, just figuring out, okay, it's a streamlined process of what happens when someone signs versus all hands on board, because obviously now we're bigger, so it can't just be a free for all. But I think then just the opportunities have grown as well. So, you started with a couple clients and everyone's hands on boards, and that kind of spread, and it kept growing. And so I think then being part of that growth and just seeing, okay, we did this, but oh, now we're doing this. And oh, because we have this process or because we've worked with this client, we now have this opportunity. So I think from me and watching it grow in the past 3.5 years is just internally kind of the structure and processes we put together then, and how that's gone out and really shown to other people who then they're the ones that refer back into us. So I think it's just even more just like the cleanup, like the organization of how we run. It's definitely not that startup anymore, and it's kind of forced our hand.
yeah, I think our processes have matured pretty quickly, and
Mhm.
and I hope this is true, but I think ahead of the need, like almost before we need it, we've already figured some of those things out. I think that's been super
Yeah.
helpful. Things haven't like exploded because of that. We were anticipating this, and so we got ahead of it or did it pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, and I think again, tying back to people, like the people who have come to Native, their experiences have lent to that, because they have, been a part of something that maybe we haven't been, but they brought that up, and then we have this opportunity, like we've already thought about that. So the talent that has been curated and brought onto Native like helps us so much be ahead of that curve.
Yeah, I was talking to Christian, and he said that the process for how we improve every year feels much more democratic than what he's seen elsewhere. And I think that's right. Like, it's not
Yeah,
groupthink, but we're definitely open for, hey, if we can make this thing better, like, tell us, let's figure this thing
absolutely.
out.
Let's do it. Exactly.
And then I think you and your team has done a great job of then putting that into practice and sticking with it. So
Yeah.
having a good idea and then executing on it. If you don't execute, what's the point? Having the good idea, right?
Yeah, it's fun, but then what happens?
Right. So based on you've been a part of, and even before watched kind of where we were at even before you joined. So you're pretty well aware of what our 5 years has looked like. What do you think the next 5 is going to look like?
Oh my gosh, I know I've thought about this a lot just because it's been a big year. Well, I would say the past 2 years, just with, getting on some of those lists and looking for new office space. And it's just, I'm not sure that I know. I think because even 5 years ago, I'm not sure I would have thought, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. I knew we were going to grow, and I know that there was going to be new opportunities, but I don't know if I knew what those were. So in 5 years, maybe we're still at the same crossroads place. Maybe we're we're the same size that we are now. I know we want to get a little bit bigger, but maybe that'll change. I don't know. It's a hard question.
It's a very tough question. I think we've kind of demonstrated that if we set our mind on something, we can get there. And so you got to make sure it's worth the effort, right?
Yeah, and I think not forgetting where we came from and, you know, some of those basic reasons of why you started Native, or, you know, why you've hired the people that you have. And I know that ties into the culture, but not really forgetting those roots and like why we're here and what we're doing and why we're doing it, instead of just to get a name or, you know, get a logo. Like what are those other factors that keep us going?
Absolutely. In fact, I think quarantine obviously has had plenty of challenges for many businesses and many clients, but there's all kinds of silver linings. I think one of them was more time to think about it and really plan it. Like, what do we want to do in the next 5 years, you know? And I don't know, I think for me in the conversations that we've had and other, you know, leaders here, it's not just numbers, right? It's like the farthest thing from it, really. It's like, what do we want the feeling and experience to be? What do we want to help clients with? And then, all right, now let's put a number to how to get there versus just, you know, I think that's the risk of these fast growth lists that we keep finding ourselves on, is that it makes you kind of want to just go after the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very rewarding.
Right.
It's
And
a nice little indicator, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where, you know, even last year, really, when it was the first list of, you kind of reiterated that last year, this year, this is nice, and we like to be almost surprised by it, but there's so many other factors that we're working towards versus just that number.
It's just the easiest thing to measure, you know?
Yeah.
People love to ask, hey, you know, what's your head count? People want to rank you by your revenue. Man, there's so many other things.
So many things.
If you think about the past 3.5 years, what are some of the stories that you like to think about, either with colleagues or you tell your friends or family and be like, yeah, we did this?
Oh man. I mean, I think the last holiday party at the disco roller rink, I mean, I'm very proud of myself for winning, you know, getting down on the lumbo. So that's, you know, my pride. I think that was my first Instagram like story that I posted about. And then I think really is that the video, like that 1-minute video that we were just talking about, I think it just embodies like the fun, crazy, different personalities that all come together here. Like, hopefully we still continue to show that, because I love that video.
It was so good. And what I love about it is I had nothing to do with it at all. Like if you remember, nobody asked for my approval. I was gone that day. Didn't know what was happening. And when I came back, they're like, so this is what we did. I'm like, this is awesome.
It was so good. And so those are, I feel like the two, like most, for me, like the most like fun things probably recently that I can think about, that I'm like, this is Native. Like, this is fun. Like, this is what we do at the end of the day.